Alright everybody, we're down here in the notorious RC speed shop, if you will. We just finished building this four-wheel drive, four-roller dyno, as you can see here. So this thing's basically machined out of aluminum pieces that I've put together and gotten. And in addition to that, we've also incorporated four rollers with an adjustable wheelbase so that we can sit there and adjust it anywhere from around 9 inches up to just over 13-inch wheelbase to be able to do dyno hits even on the four-wheel drive vehicles. Right now we're still trying to get everything picked up and cleaned up, make sure everything works the way it should. When I started making my initial hits on here, the problem I found is I needed more rigidity into the dyno itself because I was starting to bend some of the aluminum components, so I came in and made it considerably stouter just to ensure that I get rid of as much flex as possible. To record the dyno itself as it's rolling, we can see I've tied the rollers together here using, actually on this side, using jack chain so that as they roll together. Back here I have an additional sprocket on here in the event that I need to add an additional motor for loading. In the middle of the two rollers there you can see a little bit of magnet wire hanging off a piece of iron that I machined for a pickup coil, and then we also have magnets rotated every 120 degrees on my roller here. I've also added the little chain here so that we can hold the vehicle down. During some of the test hits we found that the vehicle can move considerably without both front and back chains on it, just like the real thing. So what we end up doing is on the computer over here we're running a dyno program that I was able to find called Simple Dyno 6.5. Basically it's a freeware program, and what it does is it looks at the microphone input for your computer, laptop or desktop, and it looks at each time basically the wheels or the rollers rotate, the magnet goes past the pickup coil that we wound there, and it comes up with both speed, horsepower, and torque. So what we're going to be doing this evening is making a few test runs. Basically, if we come over here we can see we've input all our data into the dyno, which basically includes looking at things like the mass of the vehicle really doesn't matter, the frontal area doesn't matter, the wheel diameter is important for calculating appropriate speed. We have the roller diameters, wall thicknesses approximated, the mass of the rollers, so that we can try to ensure that we're getting somewhat accurate data off of this dyno. I know a lot of the things that we're going to be doing, we're just going to be doing comparisons, so the actual numbers aren't exactly critical. However, it's important to get a good understanding of what's going on. What we were able to do with a lot of this is make some assumptions, and then I also have a motor dyno and run some of these motors on the stock motor dyno, and then look at the losses that we're going to experience with the drivetrain and try to make a determination as to if they make sense or not. So we're going to sit here, we're going to do a test hit. As you can see, I already have it ready for a power run. I do need to figure out how to change the scaling on the speed indicator over there. I truly doubt we're going to be approaching anywhere near 1,000 miles per hour with this stock Tamiya Sand Scorcher. But what we're going to do is we're going to make a couple hits with the Sand Scorcher, and then I have a fast attack vehicle that's set up stock as well with the exact same battery that's been re-peaked at that point in time. And then we're going to do some comparisons looking at torque and horsepower, max speed, all of that, just to make a fun little video here. As we get further on, I'm sure we're going to start getting into, for example, I got a Kyosho Dodge Hellcat, and we want to sit there and make some determinations on horsepower differences between LiPo and nickel metal packs. And then I'm sure we will get into adjustments of a Castle Creation motor and seeing how those can adjust top speed, horsepower, and torque as well. So we're going to get set up here. We're going to make a couple hits with the Volkswagen, and then we're going to get the battery re-peaked, and we're going to take a couple hits with the fast attack vehicle and basically go from there and see where we end up. So with the rig basically chained onto the dyno, we have the dyno ready to run on the computer. We're going to sit here, we're going to take a couple test hits. We're going to make sure everything runs the way that it should, everything takes off, and then we will make a real hit. So because I didn't get into the throttle immediately, this curve doesn't look like a whole lot here. One thing I did want to look at is maximum RPMs. Spike threshold we have set to 5,000, which for this rig probably makes sense. From here we can go into the overall analysis. Again, my torque versus horsepower curve. The blue is your roller torque, while your red is going to be your power produced. It says we hit a maximum speed of around 14.2 miles per hour, which makes sense based on the rig that we have. So from here, we're going to close this. We're going to come in, we're going to make another power run. We're going to call this one, as you can see, we've been having a little fun. We're going to call this one Sand Scorcher 15. Save this file. As we can see by the red power run button right there, we're going to go ahead, we're going to take a speed hit right now, and we'll see what this curve looks like. So the curve is much cleaner at this point. We actually got after it, so it's closer to what we'd expect to see. The green is the raw data. I'm still trying to figure out how we can clean up this raw data slightly. If we go to analysis though, we can see our torque versus horsepower again. Again, roller torque is in the blue while the horsepower is in red. These rigs aren't overly fast, so we're not really getting the crossover that we'd expect to see with a standard RPM. That occurs at like 5,000 RPM if I remember correctly, or yeah, somewhere in that range. So we're going to make one more hit with this one, and then we're going to repeat the battery, and we're going to get the fast attack vehicle on here. Top speed on that one claims to be 13.6 miles per hour. So just feel back here, make sure the car wasn't hitting the chains. So we're going to come back, we're going to do a power run. We're going to call this Sand Scorcher number 16. And we're ready to go again. So we're going to sit here, we're going to hit it as hard as we can, see if we can't get a little better result this time. So there's our curves again. If we go straight into the analysis, we're going to see very consistent as far as speed goes, 13.5 miles per hour on that hit. Roller torque in Newton meters is 0.04. Give or take 0.05, somewhere in there, with the max horsepower in watts of 5.73. And the numbers seem interesting and valid. So at this point, we're going to take a little break. I'm going to swap the vehicles out, get everything recharged, and we will come back to you in a moment. So here we are, we're back, we got our fast attack vehicle ready to run now. Truth be told, I've never actually driven this. I got it in trade a few months ago, give or take. Literally just got the receiver into it this evening, hit it, made sure that it ran on the ground, and that's all we've done at this point. So we're going to sit there. We need to take some measurements on the rear tires, make sure that we have the rear tires properly sized within our computer program, and then we're going to come through and we're going to take another hit with this guy a couple of times, and we're going to see exactly how it compares to our Sand Scorcher. So we've updated the wheel diameter or tire diameter here so that we can get more accurate top speeds. Again, we're going to go ahead, we're going to set this thing up. We're going to do a power run. We're going to call this FAV1. We're going to take a few test hits on here, make sure everything goes the way that it should. And it's ready to go. That's what the red light indicates. And we're going to give this thing a hit and see what happens. So there's our initial data here. Again, we're going to kind of skip this and go straight into the analysis. There's a more typical what I'd expect to see for a torque and horsepower curve. That actually looks really good. It says top speeds around 12.7 miles per hour, so we're about a mile per hour less than the Sand Scorcher, which might be believable as well. Looks like our chains held on well. The vehicle didn't move too much. It did move some, but it didn't move too much. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to take another hit, and we're going to see what the second hit looks like here. So we're going to come back to power run. We're going to do an FAV2 now. We're going to save this guy. It's red, it's ready to go. I think everything's pretty happy at this point. We're going to take a big hit and see what happens. So there's our second hit. Go to the analysis. We can see that changed. And what tends to happen, and I'm not sure why, if it's really the nickel metal batteries dropping down that much off the initial charge, we can see where the FAV very closely resembles some of our hits that we made with the Sand Scorcher. So what's nice about here is I can come over, I can add the last Sand Scorcher hit that we made. And we can see that the Sand Scorcher was just slightly above the fast attack vehicle. Let's get a little closer. In both torque and horsepower. So the Sand Scorcher is the dashed line, while the solid line is our fast attack vehicle. So it's kind of interesting to look at that. Again, we can see that the FAV is just slightly slower by about a half a mile per hour. As far as our torque readings go, yeah, we can see that we're down not a whole lot, about 0.1 ounce-inches as far as torque goes, and somewhere around 0.3 watts in horsepower. So it's just kind of interesting to see. I think I'm going to reset the FAV just a little bit, see if I can figure out how to get a little better run, and we're going to go from there. So I say we do the third and final run of the night here with the fast attack vehicle, and we're going to see, I played with the suspension a little bit. Again, these old rigs, I mean, since this one's never been used, the rear suspension's pretty tight, so I did jiggle it a little bit, if you will, to try to get a little better seating in there. We have it on the rollers really well in the rear wheels, so I don't think that's causing an issue. So let's go ahead and take another hit. Go to analysis. Yeah, very similar to the second hit, so we can come back here. We can add the second one to it and see that they're basically right on top of each other. If we add the third hit, which was actually the first one, it's interesting to see how much more power. So the dotted line is the first run. The dashed line is the second run, and the solid line was the third one. The second and third lines are nearly on top of each other, but with the nickel metal batteries, what we're seeing is a pretty drastic change in both torque and horsepower. The main thing here, and what I want to be doing, is I want to definitely sit there and start making more test hits, if you will. change some variables around, left, right, all that good stuff, and see what different tolerances and different results that I get based on types of batteries, motor setups. We're going to try some gear ratio changes, stuff like that, just to have a little fun. So with that, y'all have a good evening, and we'll talk to you soon.